Hi everyone, it's Veroosh. Welcome back to my channel. It's my second stream of the day. I guess we're rocking and rolling. Well, there's a lot going on, and there's a transit I want to show you guys that we're under right now, and I have some, hopefully very helpful insights about it. So I would like to do some astrology with you guys, and maybe later we can do an all sign. Maybe in the comments you guys can tell me if you want just one collective message for this transit, or if you want a sign by sign interpretation. Besides that, I'm doing a live stream for the elements regarding Jupiter and Neptune conjunction that we're under right now. And this is a very significant transit that is a huge impact on our lives. And those are very detailed and long readings. I think each one is between 45 minutes to an hour. Very, very detailed analysis of the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction. So let me know if that's enough and if we can do a collective message. But if you guys are really into understanding this, once you hear the astrology by sign, that I'm ready to do it. Okay. And I know, be objective, please. So in the sense that I know many of you will say all sign, all sign, all sign. But if you feel like that's enough, then, we can do some collective reading after doing the astrology. So today is a very special day. It's the day before the conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter. There's another concurrent transit that is forming over us at this time that is quite a different energy than the conjunction. And so I thought I could talk about it today. In fact, earlier today when I was filming the Earth sign energies for Neptune and Jupiter, I actually ended up talking a little bit about this energy as well. If you're interested, the link is down below, and I actually saved the video right into the moment when I talk about it. So if you want to hear me talk about it in the context of the Virgo reading, it's applicable to all signs. And tomorrow, by the way, I will do fire and air. Those are very long readings, and rather than try to push through them too fast, I think it's better that we just pace ourselves through them. So I hope you're enjoying them. They're very intense for me to do, and I hope that they're helpful. A little joke I've made a couple times for a couple of the signs is that these readings are essentially readings for the rest of your life, because the conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter is only going to happen once in our lifetime in Pisces. And so it didn't happen in your parents' life. It didn't happen probably in your grandparents' life. And so now that we're under this conjunction, it's very, very special. There's this other energy here that's also very important. And in fact, once the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction happens, miracles happen, everything happens as a result of that. We also have this energy of Saturn squaring the nodes that will affect us for the rest of the year. And it's actually, I would say, a very important energy for the rest of the year. And so this is important right now because the moon is in the sign of Leo, and it's creating something called a grand cross. So you see this big square that's being formed. Well, the moon is right opposite Saturn. It's just past this point at the time of filming. And at the same time, they're both squaring the nodes, creating this big cross. It's a massive activation point and a point of awareness. And that's why I came on to today to show you guys this, so you're paying attention and so you can see what I'm referring to. So what is this energy all about? So I filmed some Saturn videos already. I've done 2. This is a big transit this year, so we'll talk about it several times. And I made a whole playlist for Saturn videos with regard to this transit, so you can really understand what's going on. So it's all about navigating the astrology, right? And so use this information to help you make plans and figure things out. So what does Saturn square the nodes mean? Let's just do a little recap for anybody who's missed it. Saturn square the nodes is a conflict of interest, very similar to the energy that we had last year when Saturn was squaring Uranus. But this is a different energy, of course. And so this is a lot to do with how we're actually living our lives and how our lives are playing out. This has a lot to do with how we choose to organize ourselves and how we choose to implement our tasks and what we choose to do on a daily basis. It's a very Saturnian sort of energy. How you organize your life will come into some direct conflict with the outcome of situations, with where you want to go. And if you recall, in January, I was telling you guys, if you don't get things done early, if you don't take care of them fast, you will end up sort of dealing with things until the end of the year. And so the reference point was get things done quickly, or once Saturn starts creating this square to the nodes, you're going to really feel less time to be able to deal with it appropriately. There's going to be competing energies and competing commitments. So this is upon us now, and the exact square is actually April 21st, so a week from now. So you may be feeling tension in your life already with regard to this square. You may be feeling as though there's competing things, there's things taking up your time. And so today the moon is opposite Saturn, and whenever the moon forms some kind of special aspect alongside a big transit like this, whenever you see the moon forming some kind of special aspect, this is an awareness point. The moon is opposite Saturn, so like a full moon energy. And from its perspective in Leo, it can see in some way some things about our lives and how they're organized, and some powerful insights. So if you want to talk about how we organize ourselves and that kind of quality to this transit, I've already done those 2 videos. I think it was like a new moon video and another video. And so they're in that playlist for Saturn, so watch those. But today when I was filming the Earth sign energies for Neptune and Jupiter, I had some big realizations during the video. And so I actually linked that part right there where I suddenly had this awareness point about another layer to Saturn that I want to share with you now. So Saturn is organization. Okay. But today when I was talking about Neptune and Jupiter, I became really aware about how Chiron is connected to all this. Chiron is in Aries, and for those of you who are new to astrology, or maybe you haven't heard me talk about it yet, why don't I just give you a debrief on what it means. So Chiron in Aries is a collective transit for us all at the right now. In fact, all these transits are in a way collective. When the nodes enter Taurus, or when Chiron entered Aries, we all collectively shifted. So if you go back a couple years, when Chiron entered into Aries, suddenly we started collectively feeling a sense of anxiety about who we are as people, as communities, as individuals. We started, a lot of the human rights things started coming up because people really felt the wounds of how they've been treated and how the world is functioning. And so Chiron in Aries is working through the energies of Aries I am energy, right? And so therefore Chiron, the wounded healer, is taking a look at how our self is affected by our communities, by our world, and by ourselves, of course. So Chiron in Aries has really triggered in all of us collectively this self-awareness of, hey, I'm a wounded bird. Myself has been hurt by the current circumstances and by the life I've led. This is the world. The world is hurting me in these ways. And so you can see everywhere people talking about their personal experiences and collective experiences of being hurt. And so what I talked about today earlier in the Virgo section of that reading was about how the historical narrative of what's happened to lead us up to this point. So I became very aware of how we have collectively shifted away from caring for other people, or at least being in circumstances in which we are ashamed for acting poorly towards others. So, and I'm not saying that in the past there wasn't mistreatment of people. There was a lot of mistreatment that went unnoticed. However, the dominant narrative that was being shared at that time was, you have to do well by people. You have to treat them with dignity. If you don't treat them with dignity, then you answer to God, because it was contextualized in traditional religions. And so as religions broke down, I would say probably, post-World War II, that's when a lot of the fracture of the grip of religions over people really started to fade away, because people saw the atrocities of war and they confronted ideas about God and they started questioning. This even started before than that, but let's just say for argument's sake that World War II accentuated this searching for meaning. So people became aware that maybe there is no God. Of course, Nietzsche, right? And these ideas were earlier, but anyway, that's not the point. The idea is that in the 20th century, religion walked away from us culturally for many people, and people who participated in religious communities, church or whatnot, whatever you practice, more and more people became either agnostic or atheist. And so a lot of the pressure upon us to act a certain way towards each other, and a lot of the shaming gaze of the community for people who were acting outside of fair etiquette started to disappear. And when the internet came around and we became more global and more diverse, that pressure even decreased more, because we don't know each other personally for the most part. And on the internet, everybody can come and go as they please. So this peer pressure of falling into line disappeared alongside the rise of atheism or agnosticism. So I'm not down on atheism or agnosticism, but I do believe that a cultural quality from practicing religions in the form of a community kept people accountable to each other to a certain degree. And I know that there's a lot of criticism of that and it's highly problematic, but let's just, for argument's sake, adopt this view for now. And so basically, as we stepped away from community religion practices, people started, saying, oh, well, there is no God, so I can have a divorce. I don't think divorces are a particularly bad thing. If people are not getting along, it's a good thing. But people didn't feel like they were going to go to hell if they did something. So more and more people felt at liberty to treat others in whatever way they wanted to. And this was accentuated by the internet, by globalism, by people basically connecting with people from communities from one point. So there was no community to keep people accountable to each other, because a person who was a bad actor could simply step away. Sorry if I'm over explaining, but this is Chiron in Aries in some way in my mind. And this is where we find ourselves at this time, in a moment in time in which we have a, super fast-paced global world, and we're interacting increasingly with people who we don't personally know, and people who can turn off their computer and disappear from our lives, block us from their phone. We'll never talk to them again, and nor will they be held accountable for their behavior towards us if it's unhealthy. And so bad actors, people who are predisposed to treat others poorly, have a tendency, to mistreat others. And so a lot of people are saying that this is the age of narcissism. And so what I was saying was, I think that more and more people are affected by this. And this is, in fact, one of the major facets of Chiron in Aries. And I think that people are getting fed up with it. I think that this insensitivity towards other people, because there is no God that's going to keep us accountable. And I'm not saying there is no God if you're believing, by all means, believe whatever you want to, but more and more people believe there is no God, so they feel at liberty to act in whatever way they need to or want to at a time. And so how does this relate to Saturn? And so when I was saying this, I was using the example of Ukraine, and this is not a political video. There was an interview by Vladimir Zelensky with The Economist, and I actually brought the link for you guys today if you want to watch. And in it, he basically says, and this is a view that's been shared by philosophers such as Slavoj Žižek and many other, very reputable academics, that there is a vested interest in handling the war a certain way, and that certain people benefit from the war continuing and dragging on, people making money off of it. And so this is, of course, coming at the cost of human lives, the destruction and of a country, of the suffering of people, which is the bottom line. This insensitivity towards another person's experience. Again, I really want to stipulate that this is not an isolated incident. There's many events around the world, specifically in Afghanistan and Yemen right now, but Somalia, there's Ethiopia. There's just so many incidents of this throughout South America in which people have been suffering. So I'm not minimizing this, but these other experiences. But Zelensky himself pointed it out and said, well, there are certain people in the world, in the Western world, and I don't mean just North America, who are invested in perpetuating a war because it suits their benefit. And this is true of everybody watching what's going on. And so this Chiron, this insensitivity to another person's suffering is playing into Saturn squaring the nodes. And so through that, I saw how this is affecting Saturn. So Saturn in Aquarius is in rulership in Aquarius. It's a very powerful position for Saturn. And so rather than just looking at it as a time management situation, as we've discussed before, what are we choosing to do individually? There's been a lot of slogans out of South America about the economic situations that they have gone through, Central and South America. And the thing about South America is that there's really astute academics in many of those countries, very smart people. And they say things such as, you ignore us now, you ignore our horrible situations economically as our inflation flies out of control and people lose everything. But one day this is going to come for you too. So what goes around comes around. And so I think that this is really tied into how Saturn is squaring the nodes. And so I think this whole idea, I think it's time for us to care about each other. And I think it's time for us to bring into awareness how our ignorance towards others, and I'm not speaking specifically about Ukraine or just South America, Yemen and Afghanistan and many other countries in which people are suffering are fully in that same situation. But I think it's now time with this Saturn square the nodes, how our ignorance towards each other is actually and creating a worse situation, and a situation that is being confronted. It's really coming together really fast. So such as that slogan, what goes around comes around, by us ignoring what's going on in the world to other people. And I don't mean only politically, this is also in our everyday lives. I think that very quickly this is going to unravel, and sooner than we know it, we will be dealing with the consequences of our insensitivity to others. So over the last couple months, I've seen an increase of just situations of people unapologetically being insensitive to the experience of other people. It's become like that narcissism has become so cultural, and not just in North America. And so I think at the same time, people are sick of it and people don't know what to do about it because we don't have necessarily traditional religions to revert back to. There's no, there's no like threat from going to hell or God or consequences from God. So I think that what needs to evolve is, a different system, a system that in some way incentivizes being accountable to each other in this global world. And so I think that a lot of this energy to do with Saturn squaring the nodes is in relation to that. So I became aware of this at the time that the moon was applying to square and create this grand cross. And I was like, how did I not see this before? Because I've had so many downloads. I've been really inundated, not just personally, actually personally not very much, but just seeing it everywhere I go, seeing this exploitation, that how we're exploiting each other on a personal level and a collective level. What people have been saying to me, like clients, is the insensitivity that they're feeling from people around them, how people are ignoring their needs, how people are, just not like outright not caring what's going on with them. And I think that that's the lesson of Saturn and Aquarius. So we've had, these consequences are going to come long term. And if you think you're getting away with a certain behavior or a certain action, I think that, collectively and individually it's going to be a tough time. So in other words, I think that that's what this energy is in part dealing with. Insensitivity, selfishness. Aquarius is the sign of the collective, the 11th house of friends. So Saturn is like asking here, who are your friends, and are they really acting through friendship towards you? Right? So, and that's applying the nodes. Can you go forward with the community that you have? Can we go forward as the community we are at this time together? So anyway, those are my thoughts on this. And I think it was important to kind of bring your awareness to this at this time, because the moon is in Leo, and this is going to be the last activation point before the direct square between Saturn and the nodes on the 21st of April. So it's a pretty big deal in my opinion, and maybe you can reflect on this day. I'm filming this on the 11th of April. Maybe you can reflect on your day and see what kind of impressions you've had. Maybe it's about time, maybe it's about conscientiousness towards others. Maybe it's about something else with regard to structure in your life and how it's affecting your way forward. Or maybe you have observations about the world that maybe you want to share in the comments down below or whatever. But essentially, I think that this is like our warning sign. I think today is our awareness point in saying, hey, this square is coming and it's going to push us into some consequences and we need to smarten up. So whether that's for you personally or us collectively, I think that's the information. So yeah, and so another thing, so Paula's Psyche says having to make new friends. This came up in so many of your guys' readings. Listen, if what your environment is not giving you, then go and change your environment. Stop trying to scream at the ocean and convince people who are not there for you to try to accommodate you or try to they've already chosen. When a person disrespects you, they've already chosen, right? When you're not getting sympathy from them, sitting around and waiting, they've already chosen. So stop trying to convince people on things that they've already chosen on. So did you guys figure it out whether we should do an all sign or just one collective message? So I was thinking one collective message because tomorrow we're going to do a lot for a lot signs, and you guys have like 40-minute videos for each sign. I did them by element because if I posted 12 individual readings, you guys would not see it before the 12th, which is tomorrow. So this is my way of getting you guys, or putting them all out together. So I was thinking that maybe I could do a collective message, and you can watch the other videos and think about them. But so far a couple people said all sign, so it's up to you. But I think that anybody else have an opinion that's different? Anybody have compassion for Veroosh? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's do the all sign, and I'll show you guys, maybe pick some messages, and okay. We're gonna do the all sign because I think a couple people were really eager to hear it. But they'll just be like little astrology messages and just a couple cards each. And then go and watch your reading for the Neptune Jupiter conjunction. I wish you guys all the best. Really pay attention to your environment. Both the salty, and without the salt, the sweet wouldn't be as sweet. So our sweet is Jupiter and Neptune, and the salt is Saturn square the nodes. But both are very helpful and important. So, you know, I did the shame game. So those people who said all sign, I love you guys. You guys do so much for me. It's fine. I was just kidding around. Okay, so so let's take a look at all sign, and we'll just do little messages, show you a little bit of the astrology so you can see this for yourselves. So we start with Virgo. We did Virgo today. Let's take a look at messages for Virgo. And I did label it all signs, so it's a fair thing to do, to follow through with what I promised. So there you go, Virgo. That's your chart. So this is how it's looking for you. I think that for Virgos, more than anything, it does have a lot to do with time management because Saturn is in your 6th house. So really pay attention to managing your time. Uranus is here in your 9th house. And so for you, there's a lot of new opportunities coming, Virgo, in the coming months. And I think that with a lot of dynamic new opportunities, different ways of doing things, I think that with so many different ways of doing things, you need to make sure that you take care of the things that you need to do in order to find room for the different things that are going on. So pay attention to that. I think maybe that's your message more so than the compassion. Your reading was really filled with, you know, walking away from people and situations that don't have your best interests at heart, or that in some way are working against you. So that was a big part of your message today. So, you know, people that are holding you back. And this is in reference to Chiron in a powerful way, Virgo, because in the 8th house, this has a lot to do with like shared space with others. And so in some way, you're working through how shared spaces with people close to you, how they affect you and who supports you and in what way. Okay, so let's see your messages. So we have the 3 of Wands. We'll do 3 cards each sign. And then we have the 4 of Swords. And then we have the Empress. Okay. So I think that someone around you, or maybe you, need a reset energetically. I feel like when the rest comes, there will be a lot more presence that you bring into situations. And I think that you're waiting on something that's kind of taking up a lot of space in your mind. And so, you know, just be patient with yourself, take rest, or if it's someone else, give them rest. And when they rest, they will come back with full energy. Very, very caring, feminine energy around you, Virgo. Okay, so that's a message for Virgo. Hold on, let's see the next sign. So we have Pisces next. Hi, Pisces. Let's take a look at your chart. Okay, so Pisces is next, and so this is your chart. And so for you, Pisces, Saturn is in the 12th house. So a lot of your energy has a lot to do with childhood. And I also did the water signs yesterday, so if you want to watch that video, it's in the description right now. But there's a lot of energy rehashing like very early childhood stuff. You're embarking on a lot of energy, or you've just gone through, a lot of reference to, information about who you are from an early childhood perspective. And I think that there's like a lot of competing information that's going on for you right now. There's a lot of, how do you say this? Competing information, or you need to sort some things out. And frankly, it feels as though you have a bit of a mess going on for yourself internally. And that's not like a personality trait. I think what's going on here is that you have lots of little bits and pieces to put together. And I think that that's causing quite of a consciousness mess, which means that you have a lot of little details to account for. And I think it's very important for you to pay attention to that. There's competing impressions, competing interests, looking at things from different perspectives. I think a lot of things may not be adding up for you right now, so just be patient with that, and they will add up sooner than later, okay? So it's almost like you're seeing things that are not necessarily so easy to see, or information that's, not straightforward. We have the Empress first, Pisces. And happy birthday, you guys. Oh, no, it's Aries season. Sorry. But I wasn't around for Pisces very much, so do happy birthday. Then we have Seven of Swords, Moon in Aquarius. Let's see the next message. King of Cups. Do you know what this is telling me? That you want a certain relationship, or you want something that's not necessarily popular. You want a relationship with someone that's not popular. You're desiring of something that's unwelcome by others, or you feel like it will be unwelcome by others. I think that overall you're pulling away from other people and sort of marching to the beat of your own drum a little bit more here. I think that you're taking some risks, Pisces, and I think that you're really identifying some of the environments that you're in as uncomfortable for you. So some things are not what you want them to be, and I think there's some desire in front of you that you really want to pursue, and so I think ultimately you will choose to pursue it. I think that there's something calling your name, okay, a relationship specifically, and it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be any type of relationship. So we have Gemini next. Hi, Gemini. The air signs are going last, so we'll do your video tomorrow later on in the day. But let's take a look at this Saturn transit. Let's put you there so we can focus. Okay, so for you, Saturn is up here in the 9th house, squaring the nodes. And so I think that a lot of what's going on is you're taking a deep look at how you think about things. The 9th house is the house of ideas. And I think that you're asking yourself, where do these ideas come from? Even beyond like beliefs that your community makes, that your family makes, that your friends make. I think this is even deeper. You're thinking about the source. Where is this idea from? Where is this belief from? And specifically, the idea is, how are you thinking about other people? And how are you thinking about yourself as well? So there's a real confrontation here about belief systems and opinions that you have about others, and opinions about yourself. Specifically, things that restrict your ability to be successful. So this square, I think, will have a nuance to it that will be very much a part of, hey, am I being really fair to myself? Am I being fair to others? Am I limiting my experience by having strong opinions that I don't actually believe in, that I don't know where they came from? Okay, so let's pick some tarot cards for Gemini and to see what your message is. So we have the Two of Pentacles, and then we have the Nine of Cups, Jupiter and Pisces, and then we have the Last Judgment. Okay. I think that some things are changing, and I think you'll find happiness in them. I think that some there's changes that are going on around you in your environment at this time that are leading to positive consequences. And I think that you're facing some kind of opinion change, a personality change, a change of, you know, how you think about things. And I think you're going to make a distinctive transformation in the way that you see situations, or a strong held belief that you're releasing about others. So much more letting go of control, letting go of opinions, getting less, how do you say, stubborn about something. And that's going to be good. And it's the reason that you're having that experience is that there's some change around you that's leading you to an outcome that brings you joy, that brings you happiness. And it's a positive reinforcement, which means that you're having like an experience that counters your opinion, that's bringing you happiness and joy, and it's leading you to make a different decision, a different opinion. Okay, so that's a message for Gemini. Let's see who's next. Okay, well, this is quite to the point. So we have Cancer next. Hi, Cancer. Let's take a look at your chart first of all. Sorry. So Cancer, for you, Saturn is in the 8th house. And so in the 8th house, this is the house of change, transformation. Your big energy, and it's coming clearer than most other people, is this very like screw you sort of energy. You have a very defiant aspect that's going on right now. I think that you're very critical of anyone who's around you. I don't think you're super open to just accepting anything. I think your typical trait of being very tolerant has, you have a much shorter string of tolerance. You're willing to accept much less. And I think that you're very ambitious with friends right now. So it's, maybe this whole theme about compassion that the moon sort of invoked in my thinking today has to do with the way that you're going to end certain relationships and friendships. In other words, maybe you're outraged by how people behave and how people are, but maybe a part of the lesson is in how you terminate those relationships because of your observations. So instead of showing that outrage or being very critical, maybe your lesson here is to be gentle with those people and exit slowly. As much as you want to state your opinion or state something harsh, I think that maybe here's an energy of being a little bit more subtle, a little bit more discreet. I think that it's great if you're in a relationship or if you're in a friendship that brings you, or a financial situation that is bringing you negativity in or is causing you problems. I think it's great to remove yourself and not stick around. I'm not criticizing that. But I do think that this energy may have a lot to do with like a much more subtle approach and a much more gentle way of handling things. So not necessarily meeting people eye for an eye, or, sometimes it's the ambition of friendship, the ambition of good connections is a driving force for you here. So we have the Knight of Cups, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, secondary transits in air, and then 3 of Swords. I have a feeling that when you leave your situation or situations, they could be a variety of different types of relationships. I think that you're going to leave regret, but you have exciting things to look forward to. So I think that, when you're leaving your situations, I think that you're going to be very aware that as you are leaving these situations and circumstances, you're leaving behind, like, even if they were crap people to you, you don't want to hurt their feelings. And I think you have a lot of justification for why you don't want to do that. But ahead of you is joy, celebration. And the aspect of Chiron is speaking to me through this. And I think for some of you, the reputation is such an important facet of this. So for some of you, you might actually be hesitant to come into conflict with anyone because you're wary that, you know, of slander or defamation of your character in a public space. Even if it's justified, you're just wary of, you know, catching a bad rap for being too harsh or being critical. So, you know, by the way, you guys, those of you who asked for an all sign, I'm really feeling this. So you guys were totally on the money with that request. So sorry, I was kidding around, but it's actually really good that we're doing this, and it's going really well. So next we have Aquarius. So air signs tomorrow. We're going to talk about Neptune and Jupiter. But for now, let's talk about Saturn. Okay, so this oppositions happened today, and I think it's important for us to pay attention. And for you, Saturn is in the first house. I think that you're going to have some kind of incentive here with regard to love and family. Okay, so I think that Saturn in the first house for any sign is going to be really critical of us, and it's going to be in some way saying you did this wrong or your personality sucks in this way, and you might be experiencing a lot of criticism like that at this time. But I think that with the moon here, you might be experiencing some kind of incentive of, if you actually accept the criticism that you've been hearing or incorporate it or learn from it in some way, then I think that you're seeing how the potential for better relationships, better partnerships are ahead of you. So you don't have to say to the jerk who said something nasty to you, yeah, man, you have a point there. But you can pay attention to what they said and say to yourself, be like, maybe I should gossip less, or maybe my jokes should be a little bit kinder, you know? So whatever it is, you know, by all means, do you. But I think that maybe you have some perspective that you're achieving here with regard to the relationships that you want, the family situations you want, and you're connecting the dots between your personality and the things you want to achieve, right? It's easier to achieve certain things when we work on ourselves and refine our personality and our approach and whatever. Okay, so here we have the beautiful Queen of Swords. This is the Morgan Greer Tarot, and I love this card so much. So beautiful. So this is you. She's surrounded by roses. And then we have so you've been waiting for something for a long time. And even those of you who are in relationships, some of you may be in relationships that aren't fitting so well. So, you know, you're there in a relationship and you're hoping for, it's not quite right. And maybe it's not to do with love. Maybe it's to do with friendships. There's a feeling of it's not quite right. And maybe there's some criticism that you've been hearing, maybe from multiple places. And now you're feeling like, oh, if I change this about myself, if I work less, if I have more availability, if I gossip less, maybe this is the type of friendship or relationship I can have. But yeah, it feels like a pile of bricks. This is a Saturn card, by the way. I don't remember. I think it's Saturn and Gemini, but I don't remember. But this is like, look at how many problems I have to get through to get to my goal. So don't lose hope, Aquarius. Remember, the lunar transit is really a transit that has to do with, how do you say this? You know, like it's not the main situation. The main situation is when Saturn squares the nodes on the 21st. Everything that's happening now. The moon is our way of seeing what it's about. And like I said earlier in the astrology, I saw it on a different level. Do you know what I mean? So I saw it on a more personal level and more interpersonal, as opposed to just get your work done and work great. Both of them are true for Saturn squaring the nodes, but this is just another way of looking at it. And so the moon is just our way of seeing it. So maybe you've had some life experience today, you know, come up between yourself and someone else, and you're like, like this is someone who I'd really like to know. This is someone who I'd like to be with. And then maybe you realize that there's something about how you do you, the first house, that needs to change a little bit in order to have that relationship. And it's totally doable. Saturn gives you doable things in the first house. So it's not that, like, you know, it's out of reach. It's something about you that's like a good change, a smart change. And it doesn't have to be crazy. It just can be a change in, you know, how you conduct yourself, or, you know, how you do you. Okay. So an unobserved life is not worth living, right? So, okay, Aries is next. Hi, Aries. So we're going to do fire signs tomorrow for the conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter. But for now, let's take a look at your Saturn. So happy birthday, you guys. Aries season is full-fledged. New year, all this good energy. And for you, Chiron's in the first house. So, you know, a lot of you are facing self-esteem issues. A lot of you are facing, you know, identity stuff, who you are, why you are the way you are, and all these things. We all are facing it, but you're getting kind of the intense aspect of it. And what that means is, like, events could literally be coming up in your life that are making you confront these things, you know? And so if you're feeling like affected by that, that's just Chiron and Aries. So enjoy, you know. But Saturn in your 11th house, I think that there's a connection here between, you know, who you choose to be your friends, who your friends are, and your goals and ambitions for what you own for yourself, and how you connect your social life to your goals. So everybody's different. Everybody's a spectrum. And for some people, this means literally the friends that you have that help you achieve what you want to achieve. For others, it's more of a darker energy. For those Aries people, sun, moon, and rising, and every single sign may do this. There's people like this of every kind, but this is specifically for Aries. For those Aries who take advantage of others, right? For those Aries who exploit others or try to get something for themselves, you know, at the expense of others. Remember, our theme today is really about compassion, and that's like a very Leo energy, compassion. So for those Aries, I'm not calling you guys out, so this is specifically for a subset of Aries. I want to really stress this. You know, if you're taking advantage of your friends to get ahead, I think there's a reckoning coming. I think that there's some kind of, like, you know, you won't get really far with that one. Otherwise, for the majority of the group, I think that there's going to be a vital awareness between who you are, who your friends are, and what you want to achieve. So if you treat your friends like gold, which Aries do, then how those relationships translate towards your own personal ambitions. But it's not like a manipulative energy, such as in the example I gave for that small group of people for whom it may be. But it's Saturn. It's how you treat your friends and how that connects with who you are, which is Chiron and Aries, and what the outcome is. Okay? So now let's see your cards. So first we have the king. Certain people have things that you want. People you covet. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Coveting is such a religious term. You just, because with some people you can do this in a positive way, like admiration, right? Oh yeah, this person works so hard and they're very successful. I want to be like that. But then there's, of course, the dark side of this. You know, why do they have what they have? I want what they have, etc. And then we have the Page of Wands. I think that there's a lot of inspiration going on for Aries through the people that you know. And frankly, Five of Cups. Make sure what you're see, this is why I'm getting this mixed energy. And I'm by no means calling people out. There's shady characters in every sign, right? But the 11th house with Saturn there, it's like, what is driving your ambitions? What is driving your choices and your ambitions for money, for success? And I think that there's going to be, how do you say this? Like eureka moments, epiphanies. It's like, why are you doing what you're doing? And are you doing things because you're ignoring yourself and just paying attention to others and making choices to be like them? Or are you finding your own path and finding inspiration in others, which is a healthy thing? being inspired by your friends is a good thing. The mistake happens when you try to be like others, because you can never walk, you know, the same road as others. Everybody has their own path. So this is about, you know, also taking care of yourself, making sure that you're standing on your own 2 feet and making your own decisions. But then there's another layer to this for some people, making sure that you're not coveting other people and what they have and hurting yourself in the process to be like them, you know, that kind of energy. And that, again, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just describing the energy as Saturn is. These kinds of transits, Aries, are very hard, you know. For the sake of YouTube, we don't want to get too harsh, but we have Uranus here in your 2nd house. So what I'm thinking here is, unless you're very clear on what you want to achieve, Uranus in the North Node, you might be prompted to make certain decisions. And if you're making decisions from an unhealthy place, such as, you know, lack mentality, as they say, if you're making decisions from this anxious place and not genuine intent or goal setting, then I think that you risk putting yourself into situations that aren't truly yours, and then therefore they can't be sustainable. I think that's the point here. So make sure how you're relating to your friends. Okay, so we have Libra next. And so Libra, tomorrow we're going to do the Neptune video for you guys. But for now, let's take a look at your energy with regard to Saturn. So North Node in the 8th house, Saturn in the 5th house. I think that some of you are cutting ties in relationships. I'll just be honest. This is really, really strong because you have Chiron in the 7th house, okay? And you have North Node in the 8th house. You're prone to make certain drastic changes in your life at this time. And Saturn in the 5th house. Unless you're in a very perfect relationship, in which case you will fast track into something more serious quite quickly, I think. Let's say that you're perfectly matched. You meet someone and you're perfectly matched with them. This type of energy can really facilitate for you a closening of a bond, especially coming through vulnerability. Past relationships and how they hurt you may really inform coming together very close with someone at this time. And especially with the moon there, you might be saying, oh, you know, my friend who I've known for 10 years, I actually really love them and I actually feel very close to them. So there can be that magnet effect that's happening now in which you're coming together with someone. But then there's another layer to this. And the other layer that I'm seeing is fracture, which means that for the majority of relationships, as we're trying to connect with other people and make relationships and form them, I think this, you know, complacency to things that are not good, I don't think you will be tolerant of that at this time. And I think you are prone to kind of, because it hurts so bad, which is Chiron in the 7th house, which means like past hurts and love will in some way make bad situations for you intolerable at this time. So you're not going to really put up with them for very long. And especially if they involve money. If money's involved and if in some way it's negative for you, I think you're out of there very, very quickly. So quick to choose the right person, but for many people it will be a quick decision to just, you know, say goodbye or go. Okay, so let's see some tarot cards for Libra. We have the 7 of, illusion, cutting through the BS of illusion. Especially if somebody's making you, here's the download. If somebody's in some way making you feel like playing in your relationship with your own money, playing on your own fears of security or money or financial success, I think that you're cutting through that kind of stuff very quickly. So in other words, if somebody's trying to use your own money to manipulate you emotionally, make you feel uncomfortable or nervous or make you feel uncomfortable in some way, I think you're very prone to let go of those situations. Also, a lot of new beginnings, a lot of testing different things out. I think with this energy, it's a really good energy to try different things because these energies are going to pull you out of anything that's not good for you, you know? And then we have the moon. So I think that like you're confronting a lot of big question marks in your life. The Chiron in the 7th house applies to romantic relationships, but it also applies to partnerships, right? So Chiron and that past hurt, the past loss, the past discomfort that you felt, I think that comes front and center now, and you're not necessarily, Libra, so open to entertain bad. Very, very critical time for you. It's a very good time for you to try different things, because I think that you're very prone to say no to the wrong thing at this time, which is like your safety net, right? The fact that you're able to let it go if it's not working and only stick to things that work really well is actually a really good energy to try different things, because you're not going to get yourself stuck in something and accept something bad. So, you know, cut through the BS, Libra, and choose your path, and don't be so afraid of relationships. And I don't think that you're so prone to be nostalgic at this time. I think if something's not working for you, or if something's hurtful to you, I think you're very prone to be dismissive of it. And that's a good thing sometimes, you know. Okay, so next we have Scorpio. Scorpios, we did your reading yesterday for Neptune and Jupiter. Why don't we take a look at your chart for Saturn? So Saturn here is applying to square the nodes. By the way, for everybody who's watching, if you guys want to leave me a comment and let me know, should we do, because today we're talking about the moon with Saturn squaring the nodes. Do you guys want to do more on Saturn and the nodes, and like do some like a deeper, it's a very important transit, but I don't know if people are interested in it. So let me know if you are. Okay, so Saturn square the nodes for Scorpios. I think that for many of you, and let me just, I mean, this doesn't apply to everyone in the same way, but impressions from your family, good or bad, are really impactful for the types of relationships that you're having at this time. So, you know, whether it's a good relationship, if it's a bad relationship that you've had with your family, I think that that's really putting into focus your decisions with partnership right now, which means that if you have a really good opportunity in front of you in terms of love, in terms of partnership, I don't think you're going to wait too long on it. If you're in a situation that reminds you of a difficulty in your childhood, a difficult father, a difficult mother relationship, then I think that you're going to be making some very decisive choices. You're going to be making some huge decisions, and it's going to be very far-reaching, like deeply. How do you say this? The consequences of this will be very deep and extend far. So it's you know, the karmic word is kind of problematic, but like it's very consequential. The time right now is very consequential, and I think in relation to your relationships and in relation to your family life, especially your growing up family life, I think that that's really informing you in terms of making certain choices and setting yourself up for certain experiences. So either saying, this is what I want, this really reminds me of good things, but I think for many of you, there's this kind of like, childhood was tough in this way, and these are the partners, romantic, business, or otherwise, who are making me feel this way. And so I think you're going to be drawing those connections and making those decisions. Okay, so now let's take a look at your cards. We have the Fool, a new beginning. Very fresh start for Scorpio. I like this. Overall, I think Scorpios, we have a lot going on for you guys in the 5th house and in the 7th house. So you have a lot to fall back on in terms of relationships, in terms of fulfillment, which makes you a little bit more brave, which means that whether you have someone else there or not to be your friend, to be a companion, and to have that energy or not, if you don't, then you have the sense that other people will come to you soon. It's a good time for you emotionally, and so therefore, I think you're a little bit more daring, and I think you're a little bit more ready to call the shots on some relationships, especially if they're not good. Okay, so ready for a new beginning if it's not working. And then we have Jupiter in Pisces, the 9 of Cups. That's where Jupiter is at this time. You know exactly what you want. Yeah, it's a little bit brave. And then we have the Death card, which is change. So just making some broad changes in terms of relationships. And I think that it's in reference to family dynamics and everything you've learned from them. Okay. That's cool. I like that. Okay, now we have Sagittarius. And so we're going to take a look at your Neptune and Jupiter tomorrow. But for now, let's take a look at your Saturn and the moon in Leo, which is a nice transit for you. Okay. So Sagittarius, I think in order, there's a saying, right? Before you start managing the world, make sure that you're treating your energy close to home well, right? So before you start trying to improve people across the world in different places, make sure that the relationships that you have around you are good. So, before trying to clean up the world, make sure your room is clean, so forth, that kind of idea. And so here we have this energy of the moon that is very far reaching in your 9th house that you actually rule in the zodiac. And so you have this like, oh, I want to go there. I want to do that. I want to achieve these things. But I think that with this square, what you're being made aware of is all the things that are close to home that you need to address. That doesn't mean you will not get what you want far away. But I think this energy here is actually bringing your awareness to the things close to home that you have to deal with, address, make sure they're right. So it's a good energy, and that whole advice from January, like make sure that you are doing what you need to do, otherwise there will be long-term consequences, is really in line for your energy. So be very aware the choices you're making with this. If you address something quickly and well, then you'll be free to travel. You will be free to do the worldly things that you want to do without interruptions, without delays. So get your stuff done, and make sure that somebody once told me with painting, make sure you can paint something small well before you start moving up into bigger sizes, right? And I think that that's kind of a funny piece of advice. It was an artist who said that, but I think that it's kind of true and kind of not, but I see the point. Make sure that you can do the small task before you do the big one, right? And I think like working your way up is like a really good way to approach things. So whatever you're dreaming about, you can do it. Just make sure that the things that maybe are boring, that are close to home, that are less inspirational, they get done too. Okay, so we have justice, balance. This is Libra. And then we have 6 of Swords. Ooh, letting go of things. And then Knight of Wands. Look at this go. So this became just at first I was like, oh, this feels very like organize your time. But do you know what this is saying to me? This is telling me that make sure that you're able to move on from relationships in a healthful and balanced way before you go after the big fish, before you go after the dreams and ambitions. Make sure that you're interacting with the people around you in a healthful way and moving on when you need to move on without conflict, without kind of imbalances, before you go after your ambitions. So check your immediate environment before you start going big. Make sure that those relationships you can handle and they're within your ability to manage and managed respectfully, etc. So that I like that energy. I know it's not like sexy or anything, but it's a pretty good piece of advice. So whatever you're dealing with, make sure that you can handle the little bitty pieces, and and those big things are coming. It's just make sure that you're able to deal with the things on hand. Okay, so we have Taurus next. Hi, Taurus. Let's take a look at your energy. I did your reading today. It was really, Taurus's was really intense. It kind of shot me to the moon. I had to come back and do Capricorn, but I was like a space cadet after doing your reading, so I hope you guys like it. Saturn in the 10th house. Okay, in order to be who you are, this is yours. Like I said in today's reading for Neptune and Jupiter, your energy is very literal. It's very like, it's not so intuitive or, you know, esoteric or whatever. It's very literal. Basically, in order to become who you want to become this year, your goals and ambitions, there's things in the outside world. It's kind of inverse from Sagittarius, the last sign I read for. Make sure that the outside world is taken care of. Make sure your job is taken care of. Make sure your career is well kept. Make sure that your relationships with other people are settled in your career before you start making choices about your personal ambitions. Okay? So that's a very, very strong, very direct, very simple message. Simpler said than done. But I think that you are addressing a lot of partnership issues at this time, bad aspects of relationships that were negative for you or mistakes that you have made. It's time to clean those out. And I think it's time for you to take a look at, you know, making sure that you experience full closure in your situations, and so that you can take care of other things that are more close to home, which is yourself. Okay, so let's take a look at your cards. We have the 9 of Rods. Yeah, you're rearing to go. I can feel it. You're like ready to be out of there and like go do this and that. That's cool. And then we have the King of Rods. I sense that for some of you, references are a factor. So make sure that like if you're leaving a job to start your own thing, that you leave on a good note as much as you can. And then somebody has the ability to bring great luck into your life. So you may be underestimating some people that you know, not realizing just how big of an effect they can have on your life. And so make sure that, you know, you're honoring your people. This isn't friends. This is like people you work with. This is people who you know in your community. This is more of a professional energy here. And so how you relate to others and how you know, your dynamics with others. I know you're rearing to go home. I know you're super excited to pursue this new interest or this new hobby or this new business of yours, whatever it is. But make sure that you're not running out the door and someone's here and they want to bring success into your life. So make sure that you're not, you know, misidentifying opportunities or bypassing someone who's cool, somebody who's nice. You know, the older I get, the more I'm appreciative of nice people in my life. Really genuine, nice people are people who are very like good for you, you know, for all of us. They're hard to find, right? So when you find someone who's generous and kind, you know, make sure that you treat them like gold. Make sure that you treat them well. That's the message here. So there's someone in your environment here who's good. And make sure that as you get excited about something for yourself, you don't mistreat them or forget about them, or you know what I mean. So good luck with that. But whatever it is, look at this energy. Somebody wants to bring you good things, Taurus. I'm excited for you guys. Good energies. We have 2 more. We have Leo. Leo, so moon was in your first house right now, Leo. Meow, meow. I think, did we do Pisces? Oh, yes, we did Pisces. Who did we miss? I don't know. We'll see in a second. But Leos. Hi, Leo. So Leo, moon was in your first house. But this is all about your relationships with others and the things you want to achieve in the world, which is the North Node in the 10th house. So again, very similar to Taurus, but in a slightly different way. It's how your partnerships have worked out towards your career ambitions. So how have you treated your coworkers, and how have you interacted with your coworkers or your bosses or people with whom you have businesses in trying to pursue the things you want? So if you've treated them like gold, this is going to open up great opportunities for you. But with a square, it's usually pinpointing certain things that you can improve on. And that's okay. That makes us better. So whatever is coming up for you in terms of self-awareness, do that. With Chiron in the 9th house, you know, people often are doing bad actor things, like we make choices that are not so good when we're feeling negative about ourselves, or when we have something in our mind that's negative. So if we have a low, like narcissists, they have a typical very low self-esteem, and that's why they do what they do, is because they actually think of themselves as very low. And so Chiron in the 9th house, in some way, like, are you confronting certain things that, you know, your perspective on things in some way is, you know, you're cutting yourself short, and thereby, are you treating the people in your immediate environment, your partners, your friends, people who rely on you? This is like your best friend area. You know, this is like your ride and die kind of circle. You want to treat them very well. You don't want to cross them. And so how are you treating those people? And is your behavior influenced by maybe feeling insecure by something? I'm not calling all of you guys out, but maybe there's something like this coming, or maybe something like this is coming up, and this is influencing your career. This is influencing your public life. This is influencing your reputation. So if you've been really good to everyone, this is just going to facilitate growth. But for some of you, because it's a square, may in some way show you, you know, how you can do better. And that's a good thing. And with astrology, like in life, when you're getting like the small warning signs that something needs to change before something bigger happens. And those warning signs become red flags and bigger things. Okay, so let's see the tarot for this transit. Okay, so we have the Knight of Cups, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, secondary transit in air, and then we have the Two of Swords, Moon in Libra, and then we have the Strength card. I think somebody's looking to approach you over an issue. I don't think you know what that issue is. So I think somebody has it in their mind. They want to put their heart on their sleeve with you in some way. I think it's much less romantic than work. Like somebody really likes you. Somebody wants to give you a shot. Somebody wants you to give them a shot. And I think that somebody might approach you with this like... with a lot of, hope for your relationship. So make sure that even if they don't, like if they're asking you for something professionally, if they're asking you for your help, make sure you're not dismissive of them. Make sure that you're really honoring the fact that they're coming towards you with like, you know, they have a great hope from you. So even if you don't feel like this is the situation or the opportunity for you, make sure that you honor it. But I think you'll be very flattered, and I think that the feeling is mutual. I think you're going to feel very good about this person. I think you're going to feel good about this situation. The only thing that I feel that may be a part of it is that you don't fully know what it's all about. Like you don't fully understand the Two of Swords. You don't know if it's how it's going to work out. So maybe you're going to be a little bit apprehensive about what they're bringing up, about what it entails, what is the bigger picture. So rather than feeling unwell about the person, you might be hesitant from the situation because you don't know so much about it. In which case, like, learn more about it, find out more about it. But I got the message in a very clear way. Don't be dismissive. Don't be like, come to this situation with reverence. When someone approaches you with a request, know that they're putting themselves out there, and they're in a big way, like for they're very vulnerable in front of you. So treat them with a lot of reverence, and then good things will come from that. Okay, so that's a very powerful message for Leo, and I know you guys are going to do that because you're very kind. And then last but not least is Capricorn, which we did earlier today. So if you want to watch for Neptune and Jupiter, go and watch that. I'll put a link in the description after I'm finished filming, but let's take a look at your message for Saturn. So, I mean, you're going to hear this from me again and again for Capricorn. Finally, we have diminishing energy for your sign. So finally, you have a decompression. So there's less pressure on you. And that's a nice thing because you've been through so much and it's been really intense for a very long time. So, you know, we're still with that energy. So you don't have many transits here, right? But Saturn in the second house, it's a rehash financially, which means that overall, you know, working through money at this time and your relationship with money and your material possessions is very important at this time. So whatever's coming up, whether it's spending habits or how much you work, how much you save, your relationship with money and material things, whatever is coming up, really pay attention to this. This transit happens once every 29 years. So this means that you won't get this opportunity again, probably until you're much older, and it'll be a very different situation. So this is a real opportunity to get your money right. Saturn in the second house, in my opinion, is a hard transit because it does, you know, bring up the tough questions financially. But I think it's one of the best transits in the sense that it fixes a lot of things financially in your life. So it modifies expectations, it changes your approach, it teaches you lessons, financial lessons. But then with all that, you become more efficient, or, you know, you get very good at your relationship with money. It's a really good reset. So, you know, it is good. It is a good transit, but it's one of those hard work transits, you know, and yeah, it's a hard work transit, but it's a good one. And so with regard to the squaring of the nodes and the moon in the 8th house, I think that questions come up between you and others financially. So sharing money with others, being generous with others, splitting the bill type of stuff, how much you pay, how much they pay, especially in romantic relationships. If you have kids, then definitely your relationship with your money and their needs or their interests. If they're grown, where do the boundaries lay between you and them? And if they're young, you know, how to manage your resources with them. And so I think your perspective's changing a little bit about this, and I think it's deeply tied in to your relationship with money and your relationship with making sure that you're handling your money well, you know? Okay, so tarot card time. I'll tell you this because I kind of held back on it. With this North Node and Saturn here, some of you, especially those of you who are dating, I feel like there could be, like, you're facing issues with regard to how much you give to someone else, or how willing you're able to be generous financially with others. So some of you may be really realizing that you give others financially too much, and that puts you in a negative state. So if you're having that awareness point at this time, embrace it, learn from it, and change your ways. So this energy can be very self-aware with regard to relationships. For some of you, this is vicarious, which means your friends are going through financial hardship through relationships, and you're like, I don't want to be like Susie, so I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to pay attention. Okay, so let's see the next message. So we have the 8 of Swords. There's certain things that you want to do financially, but there may be blockages towards. And then we have the 8 of Wands. It's a mixed bag. It's like there's a emotional affinity. There's like positive emotional disposition and feelings. And then there's this, you know, the consequences, like flowery language talking about serious things, trying to overshadow them. So, you know, you're cutting through the BS, in other words. 7 of, yeah. I think you're really confronting, you know, nice platitudes, like nice things that are being said to compensate for some bottom line numbers, money thing. And I think that you will be very intolerant towards a negative, romantic, emotional situations that are displacing your financial security. And I think that that's the Saturn squaring the nodes. Okay? Or maybe the security of your kids. Maybe you're watching your kids go through that, and maybe you'll be drawing some kind of line in the sand and saying, no, you know, you're not going to go through this type of situation. You're not marrying him because there's going to be a divorce and it's going to be expensive. Life lesson kind of stuff. So you're in some way very, very strict right now about money, and that's a good thing. So do it. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. Again, for those of you who asked for an all sign, I think it was just what the doctor ordered. I'll be back tomorrow for fire and air signs for Neptune and Jupiter. I hope you guys are having a good evening. Remember, Neptune and Jupiter conjunction happening right now. Magical times.